Let me just first of all tell you what this is about. I was going through my studio recently, tidying it up, which happens about once every 10 years or whenever I build a new studio. Those of you for whom English is not your first language, please let me know if it's not understandable, but I will try and be clear. I was tidying up my studio and I found this. It says Tubular Bells II, Guitar 1, J, that's me. And it is the original score with all sorts of scribbles all over it. Now I've scanned it in, so we have proper PDFs of it. So I'm going to split the screen so you can see the PDF of the score properly. And I thought, I mentioned it on one of the forums, and I thought, oh, it might be quite fun just to talk through the score. Would anybody be interested? And everybody went, yes. And I went, oh, that's quite a lot of people. But I'm glad. That's really kind of you to take an interest. I appreciate it. I'm not charging money for this, but you're welcome to contribute. I'm just going to flash up at regular intervals a PayPal address for a tip jar and a Bandcamp address where you can buy my music. Like all musicians in these troubled times, every live show I had in the book has gone. I can't have people in my beautiful studio. That's okay. I'm not as poor as most people or many people, but I'm not as rich as many people either. Any gifts are very, very welcome, but you don't feel you have to. Okay, so let me just get the first screen up, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Is the next thing I believe that I have to do. So if I do this and do that and do that and do that, you should now see on the left hand side a Pro Tools window with my microphone metering, and on the right hand side you'll see Tubular Bells II score guitar. Thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, great. Okay, just one more person to admit. Hang on. Sorry, I think I have to stop. No, I don't. Okay, great. Yeah. It's looking small. What's looking small? There's a joke there somewhere. It kind of is small. Hang on, I'll just try and, do you mean the PDF? Let me try and zoom in a bit. Like that. Better? Okay. So somebody asked, how did I get the show? How did I get this job? As you will see, if you've looked at watched the DVD, there were, what, 4 guitarists, I think? There was a lot of us. 3. Me, Hugh Burns, John, Alan Limbrick. Oh, right, John Paracelli was playing other stuff. Okay, there were 3 of us. My recollection is that the job came from Alan Limbrick because Oldfield's management approached the Guitar Institute, and I was one of the tutors at the Guitar Institute, and Oldfield's management were looking for guitarists, and I think they asked Alan, and of course he put all his mates up for it. So that's how it came about. But I got lucky with this job in 2 important ways. The first way I got lucky is this. I couldn't read a note of music at all, which when you look at this, you'll realize is not a particularly good qualification for the job. But I was signed to Warner Brothers as was Mike in Germany. And I had to go for an awards show the week before rehearsal started, and Mike was going to be there. And I said to the musical director, well, why don't you have him give me a cassette and the score, and I'll do my homework. Because one of the rules of professional activity is that you don't turn up to rehearsals without having learned the material. Rehearsals are not for learning the material, rehearsals are for rehearsing the material. So I said, I'll do my homework. And they said, oh, great. Okay, so on the plane, Mike's man, Jeremy, handed me this and a cassette, and I went home and spent a week learning it, which meant that when I turned up on the Monday morning for the first day of rehearsals in Mike's place near Denham, I didn't get fired. Well, I nearly did, but that's for other reasons. I didn't get fired because I could play everything. I was probably better prepared than anybody there. I'd learned it all. The reason I nearly got fired is because at one point I said to Mike, there's a lot of stuff in here where he's playing like a sample of a guitar that's up an octave. And I said, oh, great trick, Mike. Do all this stuff that's an octave high and really fast and then get us all to play it. And he didn't take kindly to my attempt at humour. And I had a call from the musical director that evening saying, he wants you out. You better make peace with him. So the following morning I went in and I said, Mike, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I understand that I made a joke that was probably not very funny. Please accept my apologies. I'm thoroughly enjoying doing the work. And I really like the music. And he went, okay. And then didn't speak to me for a fortnight, which is fine. I wasn't lying. I really do like the music, and I've come to understand him as truly one of the great guitar players. The kind of jazz rock, can I say wankers? Do the Spanish and German know what wankers is? The jazz rock wankers think he's simple. I think it's beautiful what he plays. I think he writes beautiful melodies and he's a great guitar player. So anyway, I didn't get fired, but it was close. So what I'm going to do, the other way in which I got really lucky was this. The equipment was the Roland guitar to MIDI converter, which was a pickup that went on the guitar and a floor unit that generated MIDI that then controlled the Akai S1000 sampler, and a Boss GP8, which was one of the first programmable guitar effects unit. Instead of having lots of pedals on the floor, you had one rack unit and it would store all your settings. And I subsequently learned that Mike was always an early adopter of technology and he loves his technology. I had spent the last 10 or 11 years being a demonstrator and product specialist for Roland. I knew the GP8 inside out. I knew the Roland, the guitar synth system inside out. I was way ahead of the game on that. And I actually ended up programming all the GP8s. We switched, I think after the Edinburgh Castle thing, when we went out on tour, we switched to ME10s and I reprogrammed everything. But I got very lucky in that respect. I was ahead of the game. So what I'd like to do is just give you an idea of what it's like to be one of the band and to go through the process of rehearsing and performing this, because it's an astonishing achievement. His aim was to recreate the record. I subsequently learned from Phil Spalding, amongst others, that this was not typical Mike. He was normally quite happy to just play whatever occurred to you on the night, and every night would be different, and that's great, and that's the way most of us work. Which brings up a whole discussion about tribute bands that we'll have maybe some other time. But all of the tribute bands, the acts that they are tributing, everyone that I know finds it horrifying that they copy the records. When I worked with Roger Waters after he left the Pink Floyd, he said to me, don't copy Dave Gilmour's solos. You are here to play your own thing because you play in that style. Don't copy the solos. And you kind of make a distinction between what is structural and what is not. So there are melodies and themes and riffs that are structural, but then there's solos that aren't. Anyway, as I said, that's a whole other discussion. So I just want to go through what the process was, which would seem like a good time to take a quick look at the chat and see if anybody's got any questions. Has anybody put any questions? No, it all seems to be going swimmingly well. Okay, good. Have we got any more need of missing? No, nobody late. Okay, if they are, I'm going to stop sharing just for 1 minute and then come back. Okay, Thea Cochran said, I'm the sort of geek that would be super interested in the GP8 patches. Blimey. Okay, I don't have the actual patches, but the next thing I was going to do was go through the sounds. So I'll go back to share screen, and I'm going to show you what I discovered at the back of the score. I'd completely forgotten it was there. No, that's wrong. Hang on, sorry. Preview window, that one. There's a list of my patches for the ME10. And it says 1-1 overdrive, bright EQ, quiet delay and reverb, 1-2 overdrive, no delay and wah. And if you look at the score, you'll see that I've written my patch numbers. Look, 1-3 for that. And we'll see those as we go through it. So what I've done is I've tried to recreate the sound as far as I could in a Pro Tools session. And I've also done what I subsequently discovered Mike did, which was very interesting for me. If you look over at this channel, I'm going to mute that, I'm going to mute that. I've got a guitar stomp preset sort of thing. And if I call up patch 1-1, overdrive, bright EQ, so if I go load patch 1-1, I've got some overdrive on, a bit of delay and a bit of reverb, which kind of goes for... So you see where the red light is, that means it's on. And patch number 1-2, overdrive, no delay and wah. So I can go to patch number 1-2. This time it's got the overdrive, no delay. And one thing he did a lot was to use a wah-wah pedal, but not actually make it wah. He would leave it fixed at one position. So it would usually be somewhere around this. That sort of slightly nice nasally hollow sound. One other thing that came in very handy, this is the guitar that I used. I've used this for decades. And it has vintage gold lace sensor pickups with a TBX control here, which brightens it. And then this, the bottom control, is a mid boost. So if I just take the overdrive off, you should be able to hear it thickens the sound, and it allows me to get close-ish to the PRS that he used a lot. That's with the mid boost, that's without it. So we'll go to another patch, 1-3. I'm not going to go through them all now, but we'll get to them as we go through. The other thing Mike did a lot, and I've always wondered how he did this. Most guitar players hate DI, direct injected sounds, don't they? We like an amp. Mike was quite happy with DI sounds, and that was great. I've used DI sounds a lot, but he used one of these classic compressors on the way in. It's called an 1176, and one on the way out. And listen to what happens when I start to bring this in. That classic thwack sound at the front, and another on the way out. That beautiful clean Strat sound, a large part of it comes from the 1176s. They are known and famous amongst audio engineers because they add just a bit of brightness to the sound. That's my go-to compressor on vocals for character. I use a technical compressor before this, but then that goes on every vocal track I ever mix. It just gives a beautiful brightness to the sound, and I like the slap at the front as well. So that's kind of the signal channel, and we just go through. There's a variety. The idea of this is this. A lot of guitar players go, oh no, I can't do with those programmed things. I like pedals. Yeah, okay. But when you're doing these kind of shows, the artist is not interested in waiting while you reach down and fiddle around with the knobs on your pedal. What the artist is interested in is exactly the same sound straight away, every night. And as we go through the score, you'll see that sometimes I have about half a beat to change from one sound to another. I don't have time to lean down or do any tap dancing. I want to hit one button that moves on to my next sound. It also means that the engineers are happy, the front of house engineer. It always sounds the same every night. This also fit in with the concept for this particular show, which is that he wanted it to be no guitar amps on stage, so decent volume, reasonable volume on stage, and not loud. Okay, I'm going to have a quick stop. Is there anything in the chat I should look at? Let me have a quick look. Okay, you think you're using one compressor, 2 1176s, gave Mike you the settings for the effects. That's a good frage, Dirk. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. Maybe he did. That's a good question. Sean, you said Mike gave you the concert notes for the tape. Was this tape a studio version? Yes, it was. Yes, it was the studio version. Lee Hudson, everyone else's voice is way louder than yours. That's because they keep talking over me, but I've muted them. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right, we'll carry on. So I'm going to go get into the actual score now and we'll start looking at it. One of the things that immediately becomes obvious is that I have quite a lot of time when I'm not doing anything. 8, 10, 11 bars. And this is one of the hardest things about this gig. Counting 64 bars rest. And what you start off doing is going 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, she's pretty. Damn, where was I? So what you end up doing is learning to count, not in bars, but in phrases. And most popular music operates in 4-bar phrases or 8-bar phrases or 16-bar phrases. Mike's a little different. He tends to tag 2 bars onto the end. So there's quite a lot of 10-bar phrases or 6-bar phrases, but usually it's 4-bar phrases. And my OCD manifests itself in an interesting way, which is this. Instead of counting 64 bars, I would learn that, okay, it's 8 times that riff. So I've only got to count 8 times the riff, and then I know where I am. And my particular form of OCD means that I see the first riff as a left-handed one, and the second riff as a right-handed one, the third riff as a left-handed one, the fourth riff as a right-handed one. So all I got to do is count 4 right-handed riffs and I'm in. I would also mark on the parts, and you'll see here we've got 6 bars of piano solo. Oh, I've written a note. All vibrato is classical. Ruben, you're probably way on ahead of this. I still can't do this. I do rock vibrato. He does classical vibrato. So you'll see it starts with 6 bars of piano solo. I don't know why it tells me to cue Richard after 8. Richard was one of the keyboard players, I think, who got fired for being cheeky. But it says cue Richard after 8. I'm not sure why. There's 6 bars of piano solo. And then this chunk repeats 8 times, look. And this guitar figure, for me, playing the guitar sample, comes in on the 6th time onwards. Okay, so if I get distracted and lose count, I'm in trouble. So I've made a note for myself, bass in 4th time. And then I'm in with this guitar sample going. And I think sound-wise, that's... Oh, that was a guitar sample, but I'll dummy it up. It's quite compressed. And I would put the mid boost on to get... a sort of authentic-y sound. So if I just roll the music, we get lots of cheering and clapping. Mike walks onto the stage. Starts playing that keyboard intro. 3, 4, 5. Oh, I don't need to count it. Sorry, that's keyboard player. Okay, I don't need to worry about that. I start counting from 6 bars of piano solo. Oh no, that's him. That's his 6 bars of keyboard. Right, this is where the chart starts. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the first of the 8. That's the second. But I'm already bored with counting, so I'm not going to bother. I'm going to look around the room, check my tuning. And I know when I hear the bass come in, I've got to start paying attention. Anytime this year. There's the bass. Right, that's the 4th time. Okay, so I start to ready myself and prepare myself mentally and physically. Here comes the 5th. Here comes the 6th, and I'm in. Okay, then there's one more. And then there's some classic Oldfield. This is classic Mike. 2 bars of 7/4, which actually turns out to be wrong. It's actually 4 bars of 7/4, followed by a bar of 2/4. 4 7s are 28, another 2's 30, so it's 30 beats. So here comes the first of the 7/4s. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And if, like me, you grew up on American music, bars of 7/4 are a horror. You can't dance to 7/4. If you're an English prog person, it's fine. You ever tried dancing to Jethro Tull? No. And another beautiful melody, beautiful melody. Melodies are so lovely. Okay, I think we're well into letter 2, a total of 8 bars. I think I'm supposed to be playing this. And we're approaching number 3. Great, I can sit and scratch my arse. I've got nothing to do. For 4 bars of 7, for bar 2, 2 bars of 4. There was something wrong in the part there. That was actually total 8 bars. Those repeat marks are wrong. These are the kind of things that get ironed out in rehearsal. This is a good time to also just mention how these charts were generated. The musical director sat down, transcribed the lot from the record, also hand generated a click, literally by hand, put a click to the whole damn thing, because the musical director had a click because we were running stuff on computer as well, but he had to make sure that everybody stayed in time with the I think it was Tascam DA88s, and it had to be in time. One of the problems you have when you're generating a click is this. At this point, let's say somewhere where the tempo changes from 76 BPM down here to 140 BPM. Here's a question for you. So you've got a click that's going at 76, and then you've got to go to 140. Do you change the tempo a bar before it's due to come in? So everybody's got to play over 1 bar of the wrong tempo, or do you change the tempo on the downbeat of the new tempo? You can have a vote on that in your own time. What we did was we changed tempo on the downbeat of the new tempo. Otherwise, it's impossible to play along with. Okay, so that carries on. Then I've got to come back in here with this. So the one of the difficult things with that was that this was played using the guitar sample. And when you're playing guitar to MIDI converters, you've got to be really accurate with your hammers and pulls. So you've got to be very, very accurate. So that goes on, and we come to letter 5. Let's play from letter 4. Okay, we'll move on to letter 5. Okay, so I have to do all that. At rehearsal letter 5, we've got 8 bars again, and I've put myself a note saying that's where the pizzicato comes in. 5. Watch this nasty little bar of 3/8 here. Watch this. Watch this nasty little bar of 3/8. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Again, classic Oldfield. Anybody else would have put in a 2/4 bar or left it for another whole bar. Not Mike. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, bow to the new section. Typical Mike. Then off that goes, and I have to play a harmony with him using patch 1, 2. Load 1, 2, there we go. Oh, a bit of a nice hiss coming from that distortion unit, so we go. And so on and so forth. That's all pretty simple. Brings us, you notice I've marked in some articulations where it's a slide or where it's a hammer. Look there, slide. Okay, brings us on to oh blimey, how did I do that? That's quite clever. Brings us on to 8. What's going on at 8? Oh yeah, lovely tune. And again, I've got nothing to do. So the next thing I have to do is at letter 12. I've made a note at letter 11 as to what happens there. Okay, that's where that sort of synth bass comes in. So basically I can sit there and check my tuning, gaze around the room, enjoy the band. As soon as I hear that synth bass come in, I have to concentrate. And then I have this little figure to do. But that's a clean sound. That's definitely the wrong sound, if ever I heard it. 1, 3 I want. There we go. And I have to do this. And because my reading is so poor, I've actually just written the chords above it. All I know, I've just got to play the chord shapes. That runs right on to the next page, which is, I would make a rough guess, is page 2. And we go right up to letter 15. And again, I've made a note, cello sample. I've got 4 bars to sit, and then I've got to play this figure using sound number 1, 4. I'm not going to go through every tiny little bit. We'll be here all night. So I'm just going to stop and check the chat and everything. "22 messages? Okay, let me try and answer some of these. How much time did you have to rehearse together before the event? We did a week just the guitars at his place in Denham. And then I think we had at least 3 weeks, if not 4, at a studio in Bray. And then I think we had another few days of production rehearsals with the lighting and the sound crew and everything. So pretty much over a month. Just to put that in context, were any of you at the Swinburne Hall in Colchester when we did Tubular Bells I 2 or 3 years ago? We had 3 days rehearsal for that. Which leads to the answer, Phil Hardy, to the second part of your question. How nervous were you on the night? On the Edinburgh Castle one, not at all. And the one in Colchester, absolutely fucking scared because I knew that we were under rehearsed. And were you there for both nights? Okay, the first night had a crazed manic energy. The second night was rather more relaxed and musical. I think is the best way I can describe it. But yeah, we had a good month. And as far as the getting nervous thing's concerned, yeah, this is going to sound really arrogant, but it isn't meant to be. No, I don't get nervous. It's my job. Do you get nervous when you turn up to the office in the morning? No, it's your job. What's there to get nervous about? We know how to do this. What you do get is a sort of adrenaline, a head of adrenaline. And when you do really big gigs, I was doing 80, 90,000 capacity football stadiums with a German artist I work with. What happens when you go on stage is you get a wave of energy comes at you, and if you go with it, after 15 minutes, you're dead. So you have to just learn to go, oh yeah, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. We've got 2.5 hours to do, it's fine, it's okay. And just pace yourself with it. Hubert, no guitar amp on stage, the dream of any non-guitarist. Yes, indeed. I now do everything with a Kemper, and my ears and my back are very happy. Lee Hodgson, using wedges for personal monitoring. Yes, we were. No in-ears. I count blocks or chunks as well. Yeah. You said Mike gave you the concert notes of the tape, the studio version. Yeah. 21176s. How much time? Blah, blah, blah. No guitar amp. This is going around in circles. Always the bass player helps the guitar player. Thank you, Dirk. I can't dance. I've never seen rehearsal letters as numbers. Lee, you're a pedant. Imagine it's what you do when there's more than 26 of them. Letters are more common. No, what you do with numbers is you go A, A, B. When you run out, when you get to Z, you then go A, B, B, C, C, so on and so forth. Robin Smith, yes. How often did you rehearse? Yeah. Music seemed accurately reproduced. What percentage of TB2 performances were live versus from computer? 95% live. Easily. The only thing that I knew about on the computer initially, it wasn't the computer, it was a Tascam DA88, were the bagpipes, because we couldn't afford to take, well, I say we, he couldn't afford to take bagpipes on tour. The truck drivers used to get extra money for dressing up in kilts and miming to the bagpipes. Lee Hodgson, sorry on the, but yes, as a bass player, I can't read a note of music, have to memorize it. Oh yeah, letter 4, Letter 4, I'm going to unmute Chris Kimber, he can explain himself. Chris, why have you gone letter 4,
Letters, you're referring to the rehearsal letters as numbers as letters, that's all. It's an orchestral thing, I suppose. I'm an orchestral player mainly.
I'm going to mute you as well because you're a pedant like Lee.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mick Karma's like that, Sean. Note a legato are absent. Yeah, that's a good question. No, we actually spent quite a long time with Mike when we were doing the guitar rehearsals, getting into that kind of detail to get the phrasing accurate. Mike did not notate it. No, somebody else scored it all out. Did any of you do the following? Yeah, it was pretty much the same band. Do you have nervous energy? Well, I have energy. How do you rate the Kemper? Brilliant. I forget that I'm using it. How much stage volume in monitoring? It was quiet. It was really it was a joy to play because it was quiet. It didn't hurt. Is the answer to that question. Okay, shall we move on? Yeah, I'm not going to go through every single piece of everything. I'm going to go through notations, otherwise we'll still be here at midnight. So I'll speed up a bit. Okay, so we've got to the top of page 2. The next thing that happens is happy, and then into letter 19. Number 19, I know. I never quite saw the point in playing this. I'm sure you couldn't hear it. It's without delay, patch 2.2. I couldn't hear it. Can you hear it when you listen to the DVD? Oh, look, a little trick, little bugger. Look, I had to make a note for myself. Look. So it's first it's F, and then it's a C chord. The F on the top changes to a G. A little sneaky little bugger. That goes on for quite a long while. And then we move on to page 3. I can probably close that, can't I? And what happens here? Okay, 21 is that sort of fanfare. I know I've gone, yeah, 22. Sorry, I've gone to the wrong marker. This is 21. Do, 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 do. Okay, then at 22, we get to something that could have been horrible. If we'd have been sight reading this in public for the first time, that would have been horrible. That's written in F, but it's actually in F sharp. And it actually goes... Can't even play the thing. But it's written in F sharp. It should be in F sharp. Let me just hear what it is. I've completely forgotten that bit. Oh, I know what it is. It's okay. It's one of the melodies. That's all right. I remember it now. Ooh, it's one of the melodies. It goes. That one. And just to add insult to injury, it does it twice. And then it goes into... Then it goes into one of these... One of those. Letter 24. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, no, no, no. Little bastard. Right. There's 2 bars, letter 24. There's 2 bars of 4, then 2 bars of 5, and then another 8 bars of 5. Wow. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3. I did have to concentrate. 4, 3, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. 6. This is horrible to count. 7. 8. Right. He does this a lot, and when I went to play Tubular Bells 1, I found a lot of this. Those melodies are actually in 4, but they're kind of staggered, so it ends up in 5. Classic piece of Oldfield. Right, number 25. Okay, these beautiful little harmony figures. Okay, so the first time is different to the second time. Beautiful. The guitar arrangements are lovely, absolutely beautiful. This one's second time only, and I've put asterisks all around it because my instincts made me want to play it, and I had to make myself not play it. There it is. 26, key change. It's beautiful music. This is a beautiful piece of music. That's probably 27. No, 27's coming up. I'm going to let this play. It's so beautiful. '27. Now we're coming up to 28. Tempo changes. This is, and that goes into the clean blues thing. It's an interesting one. This, he's sort of followed the structure of Tubular Bells I pretty much identically, and sometimes it feels a little bit contrived. It feels like it doesn't feel like it's flowing naturally, the writing. It feels like, oh, I've got to write a blues in 12/8 now. On both Tubular Bells I and Tubular Bells II, the more I've played them, the more side 2 has become my favourite of both of them. Despite the aberration that is the caveman. Side 2 of Tubular Bells I is just beautiful. And it's like he got to the end of side 1 and then went, oh, okay, I can relax now. And I get the same feeling with this. When it gets to part 2, he just relaxes, and the writing is much, much freer and nicer. Anyway, on we go with the blues. I won't play it all, but this was a joy to play. There's a great bit on the video. There's a great bit on the video with this, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I understand it now. We start playing it, and I'm playing the harmony with him, doing this. And he turns round and starts to walk towards me, and then he catches himself and goes, no, 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 no. Because the ethos of that show was not about an onstage rock band. And that's what you do in a rock band. You walk over and you groove with each other. And he started to do it, and I went, no. I subsequently learned about him. At the time, when I did this, I'd never met him before, and I thought he's a bit standoffish, he's a bit cold. I subsequently discovered that he was not always like that. And if you hear Phil Spalding telling stories about their time together, you will know that Mike was not cold and austere at all. And he rode up. I think maybe some latecomers have arrived. Yeah, I'll let you in. Go on then. I'm going to stop for a minute and quickly check the chat before we move on to the next page. There we go. And there was Click, Paco Salazar. Yes, there was Click, Paco. Not only to the musical director, not to the band, which was fine. How specific? Did you only ever play guitar part 1? Yes. Was each guitar part designated a part and no swapping ever? That's correct. Unless in rehearsals it became clear that it was not possible to change from one guitar to another and somebody had to perhaps swap a part, but I don't think I had to swap anything. How specific was Mike in having the guitarist replicate his style of playing? Very, very, absolutely. This was approached in an orchestral way. Although it started that way, and then he seemed to relax. Once we went out on the road after Edinburgh, we went out around Europe, and then we did a month in Spain playing Bullrings, which was horrible. Oh, God. Forgive me, Spanish people, but fuck that. Our dressing room was in the rooms where they hung the horses up to die. Fuck that. I never want to see the inside of another bullring in my life. It was horrible. But then he relaxed a bit, and he did start to groove a bit and allow a bit of freedom to go on. Were the bagpipes at Edinburgh Castle live? Yes, they were. How did they mic that up? No idea. In my opinion, how does TB2 compare with the original? Well, it's not a meaningful comparison, because pieces of art, in my personal view, and I could be wrong, I was once, it was 1984, I think. Pieces of art take place in a context. Tubular Bells I took place and appeared in a context. By the time we got to Tubular Bells II, the context was completely different. The context of popular music was totally different. Tubular Bells I was extraordinarily brave to allow a 17-year-old junior engineer to use studio downtime and then to release a record that was 20 odd minutes aside with no singing and continuous music. That was brave. Nobody would do that now. Phil Spalding did indeed play with Toyah. Were all parts done in concert tuning? I hope so. Andy? Yes, they certainly were. You were following Robin Smith for the tempo click. He was waving a stick around. Well, how much we followed him is open to some debate, and he would be the first one to say that. He kind of was a focus for the band, Paco, but we really followed the drums or the percussion when that was happening, and when there were no drums or percussion, we listened to each other. Phil McHardy, were there any major fluffs during the night? No. And I don't recall any major. I was talking to Robin Smith the other day. He said the only time we had a problem was in Carnegie Hall, when the entire electronics, all the computer and everything just broke and stopped completely. Oh, that was the other thing. We had a guy called Adrian who was with us, who was one of the first computer operators that I saw in a musical. That's it, Adrian Thomas, in a musical environment. And some of the older musicians, some of the sort of National Youth Jazz Orchestra snobs, used to give him a hard time, saying, "Oh, you know, you sure you're going to be able to press play tonight?" And they were really quite nasty to him, which was a shame. And he ended up getting his revenge because he became very successful. He became, what's the film composer, George Clinton. He became his assistant. And I felt a kindred spirit with Adrian because I've always been an early adopter of equipment. I love gear. I'm a gear slut. It's official. And I love new gear. And I watched what Adrian was doing and went, yeah, that's skillful. You can't just do that without any training or preparation. Yeah, no major fluffs. I mean, we'd rehearsed it for a month. What could possibly go wrong? Ha! How are we doing? Somewhere in the Edinburgh audio, it's here a far hi-hat giving a tempo to a part for Mike playing alone. I don't recall if he had in-ears. I honestly can't remember whether or not he had in-ears. I don't know. I'm just going to remind you of the tip jar. There we go. I apologise for a piece of blatant commercialism in this otherwise artistic activity. How are we doing? Are we bored yet? Shall we carry on? Okay. So we're at letter 28. I'm going to go to the next. I'm I'm going to go to the next page. My God, we've only done 3 pages. I'm going to have to speed up a bit, guys. Otherwise, we'll never get out of here alive. Okay, so that's the whole of the blues. And that goes on to number 33. You've bullied me into doing it properly. You've bullied me. You're bullies, all of you. Another beautiful classic piece of Oldfield. These guitar orchestrations, I've grown very fond of these. I listened to Tubular Bells I when I was a kid at school, and then I got more interested in what we now call Americana and American-based music. And I came back to this when I did Tubular Bells II. But at the time, I'll put this in context for you. Like most of the musicians who were doing it, this was just another job that came in the middle of everything. As I recall, I came off a tour with my tame German artist straight into this. When we did Edinburgh, before we went out on the road, I think I went and did an album for somebody in London. Then we went out on tour. Then I went and did some gigs for somebody else. Then we went on tour again. I went and did some sessions for somebody else. This is just a job in the middle of all your other stuff. And you might call it arrogance, you might call it ignorance, but I didn't really appreciate this until later, to be honest with you. And then when I did Tubular Bells I in Colchester a few years ago, I revisited all of this because the guitar arrangements are fabulous. And he does these beautiful orchestration things that are lovely. But then he also does things that personally I could do without, like this. Oh, sorry, just for somebody who was asking about articulation. Hang on, let me see. I think there's somebody waiting. Yes, I come in. Somebody was asking about articulation. Look at this chunk here. This whole chunk, the articulation is pretty much every note, where it slides, where it slurs, straighter feel, everything's notated. Everything's really notated. Then we get to saloon, which I could do without quite happily. I had to change to an open E acoustic and play slide guitar, but I was only in on the second time. It goes around 4 times and I'm in on the second, so I had time to do a guitar change. Another classic piece of Oldfield at the end, a bar of 3/4. Anybody else in the universe would have done a bar of 4/4. Let me just play that section. So from the end of 34 going into 35, we're going to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Classic. Anybody else would have gone down to the new section. Not Mike. One, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I can't remember whose job it was to go at the end there. I think it may have been Mike. And then we go into this thrash section. I'm not bothered about this. It was great fun to play because it was actually a chance to kind of rock out in a way which didn't happen at any other time during the piece. I've got a new patch for it. I'm not sure why. Let's move on to the next page. This goes on for far too long in my view. That's only my personal opinion. You're welcome to shoot me and call me a heathen. That's fine. But it just goes on forever for no good reason. 37, 38. And if I'm honest with you, for me, it just seems out of character. I don't see the point. There's a lot of that. Then it goes to this, which strangely I quite enjoy. And some beautiful playing from Mike. My job was very quiet as well. Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Lovely. Page 6. Lovely. So wonderful melodies, such beautiful melodies. His background as a classical player comes out in all sorts of ways. He's one of the few classical players who've made a transition to playing electric brilliantly. Watch his right hand. That third finger thing he does. Is the cam close enough to see that? He plays loads of stuff like that with his third finger, using the nail. Beautiful. He's a beautiful classical guitar player. It's beautiful. I'm sounding Trumpian. Sorry, did I blow your ears apart with that last bit? Sorry about that. 43. Another classic piece of Mike. Watch the 2/4 bar at the end. On to 44. These are the kind of things you've got to watch when you're counting these. Watch those odd little bars. End, begin. Whoops. Slightly inaccurate timing there from somebody. Oh, bugger, it must have been me. He didn't give me much help with how to play this, which either means that he was happy with the way I played it or that he was utterly bored by then. So that goes on. I've made a note for myself, melody after vocal chords. That goes on, that goes on. There's a note here that when the tubular bells come in, it goes round 3 times. And then it goes to this section. This is another section that personally I find completely unnecessary. It's kind of nice. All right, it's happy and stuff. And I notice he's used this before. There's a few live things where he does this as an ending, where he plays this. He loves that tune. That goes on till the acoustic coda. And we arrive at the end. Now I get happy. I love this stuff. This is the same for me as the opening of Tubular Bells I, side 2, which, while I cursed the bugger when I was trying to learn it, that's one of the hardest things of his to play in the entire universe, because you've got to count 37 bars of that in 6/8, and then it changes to that's it. Can you count 37 while you're going? And normally there's cues for it, but on Tubular Bells 1 there's no cues at all. There's something weaving about going in a completely different time signature. And it's the only piece of music I've ever played where I had to make a conscious effort not to listen to what's going on around me. If you listen to what's going on around you, you die horribly. And that goes totally against my musical learning. But on that one, you have to do it. Oh, okay, here we go. So, he's nicked the same tune. He's nicked the tune. Little devil. Right, so what happens here is from 50, where those harmonics start, a voice comes in. There's a total of 45 bars. And I've got no useful clue. Let me just run from 52 and see if there's anything that gives me a cue. Oh, right, okay. Okay, the voice comes in. That's 4 bars. Beautiful melody. Beautiful melody. This is coming up to 8. And of course, being Mike, it's not 8 bars, it's 12, isn't it? And then I've got to come in with the sample playing that one. That one. And look at this little note here. No trill on the last one of each group. This was the kind of detail he got into. So we're going. That trill there. And he made a point of saying, no, it doesn't do a trill on the last one of each group. Good job he had so much rehearsal. Would you have remembered that? No. That goes on for quite a long while. I really like these long meditative things that he does. This one and the one on Tubular Bells 1. They're just beautiful for me. I love them. So we're on to 58. Do, 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 do. Okay, I've got an easy job here. B flat, J, B flat. And the next thing we arrive at is number 60. And I had to play lovely. Okay, that carries on. Right, a brutal tempo, a brutal meter change there. We've been trucking along quite happily in 4, and suddenly there's an absolutely brutal 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So not only is there a tempo change, there's a meter change, but there's no transition. Normally you get some kind of transition, nothing. In it goes. And then into a banjo tune, his Irish fixation. If you look at the video, Alan Limbrick's playing the banjo. His face is rigid with fear and tension. I'm not sure how he got landed with the banjo, but I don't think he was very happy about it. It's not even his 20th instrument, never mind his first instrument. And the look on his face just tells it all, really. He looks like he's being led off to be executed. So we get up to 64. Again, I've got to play this tune with him again for my money. Although there's a kind of weird thing on my part there. It says octave up and then it says tacet. I suspect that in rehearsal that was written in, and when we came, as we rehearsed it, Mike said, oh, actually, no, don't do that. So that Irish thing goes on for quite a long while. And we get to 67, which I'm at 69. And we get to 68. Oh, what's going on at 68? Oh, right. Okay, lovely. Right, I'm going to go back to 67. I'm going to go back to 67 because this is another of his beautiful tunes. Bo-doo-doo. I was playing a harmony to this. Oh, okay. Simple enough. 69. Now another beautiful tune, which I just ruined. Beautiful. That's also where you hear not only the 1176 is on full stun, but there's another little compressor, so you get this compressor doesn't do it quite in the way. The compressor in the GP8 was the innards of the Boss CS2, the blue compressor pedal, which is irreplaceable. Fabulous compressor. It goes smack at the front in a very beautiful way. Okay, what do we get? 71. More fabulous guitar orchestration going on here. And the simplest but most beautiful of melodies. 73. Again, a brutal tempo and meter change. Again, a beautiful melody. And I think that's that salmon pink Strat that I probably would have killed him for. I think he sold it to a fan, didn't he? Beautiful, beautiful guitar. Okay, let's take a quick break. I'll look at the chat. We're almost there. Almost there. We're close. We're creeping up on it. Jane Siberry, bloody hell. Okay, let me work through this, yeah? Okay, probably the only mistake, Jane Siberry. Jane Siberry is one of the most interesting people in the world, actually. Does anybody know what happened to Jane Siberry? I met her at a house concert. She was one of the first people to start doing house concerts. And I met her during a house concert at a birthday party for a fan. And I got talking to her. I said, how did this happen then? She said, well, I had a profile in the 80s. I was on the folk scene. And I used to play at the Royal Festival Hall. And by the time the band had been paid, the manager had been paid, the promoter had been paid, the merchandising people had been paid, the record company had taken their cut of the merch, I used to come out of playing at the Royal Festival Hall with 200 quid. And I thought, that's stupid. She said, what I do now is I do house concerts like this. And the hosts are encouraged to tell the guests to donate $30. And I sometimes get 20, 30 people in a decent sized house. Do the sums with me. 30 times 30. I'm up to $900 so far. And I sell at least 10 CDs at $10 a throw. Okay, I'm up to $1,000 so far. And she said, they supply a little PA. I turn up with an acoustic guitar and a keyboard. Sometimes I'm happy to stay in their house and sometimes I can't wait to get out. I pay my own flights and hotel if I need one. And I follow the sun. From about November through to March, I'm in Australia, New Zealand, South America, and so on and so forth. And then I come back into the Northern Hemisphere during the summer months. I said, how many gigs a week do you do then? She said, 15, 20. I make that, even on a bad month, I make that 15 grand a month. Even take off the flights and hotels and travel and other stuff, knock off 3 or 4 grand for that, that's 10 grand a month. She said, I can afford to make my own records the way that I want to make them. I don't have some 23-year-old kid in a record company telling me that I should work with a DJ. She said, it's brilliant. And she was the first artist I met who followed that route. Jane Siberry, dreadful, master stroke by Mike, in my opinion. Okay, a proper question from Paul. Is Paul still in the room? Yeah. Were the various parts known by different names? I don't know, because I don't know what the album tracks were called at the time. I do now. There was one called Sentinel, that's not what was on the part. Thrash was used on the TB 2003 re-recording. Did it went the same way on stage boring for you to play every night the same notes? Not allowed to improvise, jamming, grooving? Gute Frage, Dirk. No, because the music is so beautiful. And you can always find pleasure and joy in playing the music. I was surprised. I had expected, this had erwartet, das ist langweilig war, but no, it was, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Are your markups mostly done during the preliminary homework or were they done during rehearsals? Yeah, they were done in rehearsals, Lee. That was the time for that. I did very little at home apart from desperately try and learn the bloody thing. And everything else happened in rehearsals. As I think a lot of it would have happened in the first week at Denham when we were doing guitars and sounds, particularly, I think. From Chris, interesting you see him as a classical player. He was surely folk and rock. I don't know. I watch his right hand technique particularly, and I see a classical player there. You guys probably know better. You're fans. That's another thing that's a little difficult to talk about sometimes. A lot of fans expect those of us who play in the band also to be fans. We're not. This is just another client. Sometimes you become a fan, but when you first take the job on, it's not because you love his music desperately and you've been desperate to get invited to play with him. It's because the phone rang and someone said, can you do Mike Oldfield Tubular Bells II? These are the dates. And you go, yes, I can. How much? We weren't fans at all. We are working musicians. I've actually become more of a fan later on. And as you know, I'm working with Phil Spalding on the PSO doing the Discovery and Crises records. Yeah, I'm a fan. It's lovely. Jay, did Mike introduce you to any new guitar musical techniques you use later in subsequent gigs or your own music? Yeah, I'm starting to. And here's what it is. It's not the guitar techniques, it's the writing. He writes in a linear fashion, like a classical composer. He has one line that's going, underneath it is another one, and then he orchestrates them. He has another guitar going. Most guitar-based music is written from either a riff or a chord sequence. He does not do that. He writes in a very linear fashion. And one of the things, well, I thought I was going to do it during lockdown, but I don't think I've ever been as busy because I do a lot of online sessions for people all over the world, and it's gone crazy. I also do production training. I teach people how to record properly. And that's gone crazy. I do it online. So, but one of the things that I was going to do is sit down and start to write something in a linear fashion. So instead of starting with a riff or a chord sequence, I would start with a melody. And see where that takes me. I would immediately see something would go underneath. Now, I would never have played that if I'd have done a chord-based thing. But straight away, so I've got that line going. So yeah, that's what I learned from him. Jay, I have to depart. Bye-bye, Andy. It's too late. It was quite a chilly night in Edinburgh. You were wearing a hat. Did the cold affect your fingers? No, it didn't, because we were under lights, Darren, because at the time it was old-fashioned lights and they were hot. I'll tell you what did affect that night for me. As the night went on, I started to think the stage was moving. I thought, they haven't screwed the stage together properly. It felt like the stage was moving. And I thought, okay, that's a worry, but I will continue. And towards the end of the show, it was getting worse and worse and worse. There was supposed to be an after-show party, we went back to the hotel. My wife was with me. We went back to the hotel to get changed and go to the after show party, and I started vomiting, and I spent the whole night with my head in the toilet vomiting. I had eaten something bad during the day, and that feeling that the stage was moving was me starting to get ill. So for the last 20 minutes, half hour of the show, I thought I was going to fall over. And I missed the party. Hubert, were the harmonics at the beginning of part 2 played live? Yes, they were. And they are harder to play than the ones in TV1. And I'm glad it wasn't me that had to play it. Gareth, did you learn from sight reading? Gareth, you weren't here at the beginning. I explained that I cannot, or at the time, I couldn't read a note of music. I learned it from the recording. I got it a week. From Jowl, sorry, I need to leave for 10-15 minutes. Unfortunately, I will be back. No, I'll punctuate that properly. I need to leave for 10 to 15 minutes, unfortunately. Full stop. I will be back. From Ruben, so the harmonics were a pre-recorded bass. No, someone was playing them. I think it was Alan and Hugh, I think. Lee Hudson, round the fact, Tommy Tedesco used to go out for a for a cigarette during long periods of tacit, or listen to the live sports on a transistor radio because he very nearly got fired. Hubert, I give you that although I absolutely love his music, his transitions have become more and more abrupt with time. Yeah, it's like he is bored with having to do it. Abrupt transitions require less work. From Lee, read my earlier question about when markups. I've just remembered you said rehearsals are for rehearsing, not learning. My question still stands. Yeah, they're for refining, Lee, not learning. You should have the stuff kind of under your fingers, really. Yannick in Switzerland bought the Strat. Well, if any time he wants to come and visit me with it, tell him that there will be a big hole in my garden prepared for him, and the Strat will stay with me. From Sean Allison, at point 71, there's a bum note by Mike. It got edited. Yeah, almost certainly. Every live album you hear you think is live is not. Really, trust me. They get fixed. From Ruben, do you know anything about the modification Mike had in his Strat? No, no idea. Phil Hardy, I just found Phil McHardy. I found that bit on YouTube. It looks like a gust of wind nearly blew your music away. Yeah, I think I had clothes pegs. He always said his picking style is an adapted claw hammer picking technique from folk music. Okay, that's interesting, Gareth. Thank you. I didn't know that. From Paco, will you enjoy any private jams playing with Mike? No, he lives in Barbados and is not interested in playing live as far as I'm aware. And again, I said earlier, you know, we boys in the band, we're not fans. Well, he's not a fan of mine either, or ours. He's not friends with us. He's hired us to do a gig. He actually became, we did become quite friendly. He became very friendly and very nice. And he gave me a solo, which was unheard of. He gave me a solo. There was a piece, I can't remember the name of the damn thing. It was one of the encores. It kind of went, it sort of went. Now, Mike would never have played it like that. Mike would never have done that rock bend. Mike would play. But he used to look around at me and smile because as the tour went by, I got more and more into it. And yeah, we got on well in the end. We got on well despite my poor start. Me and my big mouth. But that's the thing with him. The melodies are beautiful. The end of a rabidoo. Okay, right. The time code was recorded live. Yes, very funny. From 5 miles out, is it? I don't, is it? Okay. What's that? Hardback cover JPEG. I'll look at that later. The album. Okay. All right. I think we've got one more chunk to do. Are we ready? Okay, now we move on. For some reason, from 73, actually, I quite like his little keyboardy things. Beautiful guitar playing, beautiful. And a beautiful sound. You know what the worst word in the guitar player's universe is? The one that causes more distress and madness and stupidity is that dreaded word tone. Oh, I'm looking for tone. Has he got enough tone? Oh no, you can't DI a guitar. And there's Mike making a beautiful sound with a DI'd guitar. Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. For some reason at 76, I've got 311 nylon guitar. Right, that was my Roland guitar synthesizer, guitar to MIDI thing. And there was a nylon thing that needed covering because everybody else was changing guitars or something. I'll play it from 76 and see if it jogs my memory. Right, I don't know why that's there. I might have been playing some backing part. The do 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 goes back to that. Oh, I'm playing it. No, I know why. Yeah, I did something on nylon guitar there and then switched to the guitar sample an octave up. There's a big circle around that note, which I must have always forgotten until I got. Mike used to give you the look, the lower lip would come out. And I must have got lipped in rehearsal for constantly missing that note because for me, it's illogical. It goes, boom, it goes. Right, I don't get that. I would have done that, but there we are. I'm not Mike and it's his music, so I play what I'm told. Oh, and then we get to another of these aberrations that are just completely stupid. You'll notice that I've got, leading up to it, 8 bars tacit, 8 bars tacit, 8 bars tacit, 2 times 8 bars tacit, another 8 bars tacit, 16 bars tacit, another 16 bars tacit, and then 20 bars tacit. Thank God. And I've made a note for myself that says first caveman that tells me when I come back in at 85. So I'll play from just before 85. And then I'm in with the bagpipe melody. But again, gloriously, for some reason, it's got tacit written above it. I would imagine that that was in the part, and in rehearsals, for some reason, I was told not to bother. Perhaps he saw the look on my face. Then another 8, so that's another 8 bars silence, followed by another 8 bars silence, followed by 16 bars silence, followed by 18 bars silence, followed by a classic Oldfield 10 bars 2/4, followed by another 4 bars silence. I'm not sure why I put a cue for myself into that 4 bars of silence. I haven't played anything yet. So it's 88. So we're coming into 89 and I've marked that the kick comes in. Yeah, I can do without all this stuff, to be honest. And then we get to 90. Now I've got to play something here, so I've marked that's where we get this piano riff. And I've got patch number 1-4. Okay. Yeah, I can do without all this. Sorry if I'm committing heresy, gentlemen, but this is not his forte. This is his comic book music. Oh, sorry. I'm going to be thrown out of the Mike Oldfield Appreciation Society for that. Okay. Let's get on to some music, shall we? Bar 93. Okay, this again, it's like a dead copy of the one in Tubular Bells 1, and he's avoided it. For most of this, he's avoided. Side 2, for me, is the same as side 2 of Tubular Bells 1. It's just like he relaxes and lets himself stretch out, and it's beautiful and lovely. And then this little aberration occurs. So there's these little melodies to play. You notice they're an octave up, and I can't remember. I can't remember if I did them with a pitch shifter. My notes say that I've got a pitch shifter set up in one of the patches. Here's a trick for using a pitch shifter, ladies and gentlepersons, boys and girls. If you want it to sound nice, roll the treble off the guitar. It sounds much better, because what happens when it gets shifted up that octave, all the harmonics and the high end get shifted up and it gets really squeaky and nasty. But if you just take the treble off, it sounds a whole lot nicer, in my view. Okay, so that wanders on. That tends to go on for quite a long time. All right, okay, then we get to this at 96. This is, again, the same as Tubular Bells 1, and I've written myself a clue. It's D minor pentatonic, basically. It's dead simple. You look at it, and it looks horrendous. And for some reason, that's written in the bass clef. Why? I don't know why. Anyway. So that wanders on for a while, comes to 97. I've written myself the chords because I always work from chords and that helps me navigate. Then we get to more tacet. We get to a piano riff at 99. Sorry, this is 99. And then we get to 101 where we've got this. I used to love that moment in the show. For me, Mike didn't really get any good at rock until the Crises and Discovery period. And even then, I can see the strings. You know, when you go to a puppet show and you can see the strings. I can see the strings. He is not a rock and roll guitar player. I don't mean that disrespectfully. He's a wonderful guitar player, but he's not a rock and roll guitar player. He does a reasonable job of it, but it ain't him. It's not his authentic voice. So after the end of that long period of attempting to play rock, it was a massive relief to come down and to be able to go. and just let that note hang into whatever comes next. The patch that it used was 1-3. And it's one of the great joys of being a guitar player, to play something like that and hear it sing around the hall. And the bigger the venues you get into, the slower you play and the better it sounds. The first time I played with Roger Waters, he taught me that. He said, there's no point playing fast. He said, one of the reasons I hired you is that you don't play fast. And when you're playing in a place that's a hockey arena, there's no point in playing fast. It's blurred. Nobody hears any detail. But if you do this, you can make the room ring and it floats around the room. So, beautiful Mexican tune, 102. I don't know why I've missed out. Okay, I've got to rowl even more. That's the kind of thing that only comes when you've played it a lot of times, is that feeling of how much you slow down. So I come in, I've got this in my head. And you only get that after playing it a lot. And you start to be able to do that together. Right, we're now into something that is another copy of TB1, and this is actually my favorite thing ever in TB1. I love this section in TB1. I'm going to see if I can find something for you, because Phil Toms, who did I don't think I've got it on this computer. Phil Toms, who did Tubular Bells I at the Swinburne Hall. No, I haven't. I haven't got it on this computer. That's a shame. Transcribed every single note of this part from TB1. You know where it starts. That's it. Ruben, did you? I think Ruben just did it note for note. So when I got the part from Phil, you look at it and there's like bars of 11 tuplets and 13 tuplets and 9 tuplets and stuff. And of course, Mike didn't write that. He was just blowing off the top of his head. And I called Phil. I said, you really want me to learn this note for note? Play it. And he said, no. He said, even my OCD doesn't get that far. He said, just play, play in that style. And this was something that also I used to do with Roger and with a lot of other artists. When you're playing somebody else's solos, I'd play that opening. And then I'd go my own way. When I played this, I'd play that and then I'd go my own way. It's kind of a quote, a respectful quote, going, yeah, I know. I love this piece of music. The only thing I had to do on it, apart from that weird little figure there, was one of these things that actually looks difficult when it's written down. I'm playing that from memory more than anything else. But I would happily have sat and listened to him play this without going anywhere near it. It's absolutely beautiful piece of guitar playing. and a relief after all that madness. I like madness, but if you're going to be mad, you've got to be mad, like really mad. I think this is even the same chords, isn't it? Ah. Oh, those 1176s. Beautiful. That's where my bit comes in. I would quite happily have not played that and just let him play. For me, I'm ruining this now. For me, that puts him amongst the great guitar players. He's not in a hurry. He's making the instruments sing. He's playing in phrases and sentences. He's not just wanking. He's playing sentences at you. The sound and the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar are completely different instruments. That puts him, for me, amongst the great electric guitar players. Up there with the Knopflers, Jeff Beck, Clapton, you name it. That makes him one of the greats. It's absolutely beautiful. There. Does that mean I'm allowed back into the Mike Oldfield Appreciation Society? Really, it's staggeringly beautiful, that. Okay, and then we were nearly there, folks. We're nearly there. We're nearly home and dry. I've stopped counting. I should be counting, really. My instinct tells me that that's... I've just noticed that bit. Okay. As I say, at this time, I couldn't read worth shit. And I've got a feeling this was bunged at me at the last minute. And I couldn't count. I couldn't read in 12/8. I'd no idea. And I've written in, it's 1, 2, 3, ba-da-ba-ba. Give myself some chance of actually playing it properly at the time. Let's move on. That goes on for a little while. Oh, go away. Oh, go away. Yeah, this goes on for a while, up to here. Again, this stuff, that's beautiful. That's beautiful piece of impressionistic guitar orchestration. That's lovely. Now I'm going to get thrown out again. Should have ended there. What the hell this is doing on the end is a mystery to me. Like really, really, really. How to spoil. We've arrived through this long, long, long journey, and we've arrived at a place of peace. And then we have to play this. Now, I love this kind of music. I grew up playing this kind of music. I deeply love it. But again, he's not a specialist. It's ham-fisted at best. There is a lovely story about this, however. If you actually look at it, it looks horribly complicated, and it is horribly complicated to look at. When you actually play it, you realize it's a piece of piss, actually. If you're familiar with the genre, it's a piece of piss. But in rehearsals, he was trying to find an instrument. He was trying to try out different instruments to play the melody, to play the melody. And he went round everybody, and the lip would come out. Wasn't quite what he wanted. And he came round to one of the piano players whose name will remain nameless. But remind me in a minute to tell you the story of the Starship Enterprise and the Klingon Bus. Okay, we'll end the night with a funny story. Remind me. One of the piano players, Mike went up to him and went, "You try it." Now, the guy had never seen it before. It wasn't written in his part. There was no piano on the original. I think he borrowed my part and took it across and said, "You try it." This guy sat down, looked at it, played it perfectly, and then said, "Do you want it in thirds?" and played it in perfect harmony. I said, "How about six?" and played it in perfect harmony in six. The look on Mike's face was absolutely precious. It came back to me in the end, and I played it. As I say, for me, I could have done without it. It spoils what was a beautiful event for my money. And then we come back to this, which is a stock ending that he uses quite a lot. And so it was kind of, the night was rescued. But that was, you know, there's a couple of lapses of taste in this piece for me. One is the caveman and the other is the hoedown at the end. Okay. There we go. Let me come out of share and we'll go and look at the chat. Forgive the cheap punting. Okay, let's have a look at the chat. See, interaction. You've been talking to each other. I agree. It's not. Hang on. Let's find where we are. Let's find where we are. Okay. The album, Picture the Pink Strat. I used it for my book cover. Okay. You're not wrong that all that mummy stuff is bollocks. Wasn't the original in TV1 because he was tired? Okay, the story from TV1, as I understand it, with the caveman vocal, is that Richard Branson said, "Well, it's got to have some singing on it. We got to have some vocals on it." So him and Tom Newman came back horribly pissed from the pub and did the original caveman. That's my understanding. I don't like it either. It's part of Mike's catharsis. I thought it was in reference to his mother, blah, blah, blah. I think he was just a bit pissed. My kids loved that bit when they were young. We always do the wolf out in the car. I agree, he's not a rock player. He's never at his best when he tries too hard. I wish he'd try a bit harder these days. Everything sounds perfunctory. He's probably bored, Gareth. He's bored. After a lifetime, he's probably bored. A lifetime of doing it. He's had enough, really. And you get to the point where you feel like you're just doing it for form's sake, because it's what I do. And so it's very hard to do it with the kind of passion that you did it with earlier. The Hammond is beautiful, yes it is. The interaction between Mike and the bass that makes Maya gold, in my opinion. This kind of guitar I miss a lot in his music. I was stuck in his old music till TB2. The guitar work in Maya Gold, I don't know Maya Gold at all. Or is that the piece of music? Is that the name of the piece? Okay, right, thank you very much. Paco Salazar, yeah, I agree. Mike is underrated in the guitar world. Gareth, how easy was Mike to work with on a day-to-day basis? He's known for being a bit spiky. Was everybody walking on eggshells? Okay, he could be spiky, but then every artist I've ever known can be spiky. And they're spiky for reasons that are hard to understand. One of the reasons they're spiky is this. I'm working up to thinking about considering the possibility of discussing and approaching the idea of writing a book about the psychology of the performing artist. I've watched people like Mike walk into a stadium. Oh, hang on, I'll go back a bit. Great performers soon learn that it is not in their control to turn it on and off. You cannot make it happen. You learn that in your career and in your performance activities, if you go on stage and trust and throw yourself off the cliff, 9 times out of 10 you will fly. The 1 time out of 10 that you don't fly, you have enough technical ability to get you through the night. But I've watched performers like Mike walk into a stadium and there's 16 people in the band, 120 crew, and 80,000 people who've paid €100 to come and see you. And they walk into that stadium and they think, what if tonight is the night I walk onto that stage, do my thing, and people go, yeah, and? Can you imagine what that does to your head? No wonder they go crazy. But it's true, because you learn that you cannot make it happen. The best you can do is to not do the things that will stop it happening. And there is one certain way to stop it happening, and that is to say, oh, I'm going to be really good tonight. You'll kill it. It's not for you to say if you are going to be really good. You are a tool. You are a Werkzeug. Whatever tool is in Spanish, that is what you are. You do not control it. It controls you, and you are its servant. So yes, they get spiky. I totally understand. Some of them are really nasty, but Mike wasn't really nasty. I also learned from Phil, you know, that this was a reaction to the period when they were doing Crises and Discovery, where he was big mates with everybody in the band. This was a reaction to it. He went, I can't do that. I don't want to do that anymore. I got taken advantage of in some situations. I lost control of what I do. I'm not going to get as close to the band. So that's the context. That bit reminds me of the Goombay dance band. And Sean, I'm going to unmute you because I just want to know which bit reminds you of the Goombay dance band. Go on, tell me.
Yeah, it's the bit that's just before. It's nasal, but it's the voices. So it's just before the end bit, the banjo bit that you hate.
Okay, all right.
The bit before.
Okay, thank you very much. That's one of the strangest cultural references that I've ever had. Ending is a mystery to us all, yeah. Well, I guess that's where he's trying to stick to the structure of TV1, but the sailor's hornpipe is hard to replace. Yeah, that's kind of the point, isn't it, really? And it's that thing of being forced. It feels contrived. Oh, I've got to replace this, blah, blah, blah. From Lee Hudson, great insights from real world tips. Thank you, Lee. That's kind of you. Hubert, very informative. Phil McCarty, fascinating insight. I actually forgot I was in lockdown for a couple of hours. What a lovely thing to say. That's really kind of you. Thank you very, very much indeed. I'm going to unmute you all so you can all shout. Ready? Go.
Hey!
Hey!
Hey! Very good, mate. Very good.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope I didn't.
Very fun.
It appear I didn't.
Very good.
I've recorded this. I'll probably make it available. Someone's getting told off. I'm going to mute Gareth's embarrassed by giving a bollocking by his wife. I'll mute you all again. I will put. I mean, yeah, I've recorded it. I'll put it up somewhere, sometime, and let you know. Thank you to those that have given tips and very kind. Thank you all for coming anyway. It's been a great pleasure, and thank you for listening to me ramble. Please feel free to email me. Oh, yes, I had a story. Okay. Yes, okay, I had a story. Yes, I can put up the pay thing again. That's kind of you. Bless you. Hang on. I'll give you time to look at that. Does it stay up there or does it disappear? Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat where it's preserved forevermore. I just put it in the chat. Okay, at the bottom of your screen, you have to click on the thing that says closed caption. But that's fine, it's in the chat. Okay, story. When we played that horrible tour of the Bullrings of Spain, we travelled overnight. Normally, the band have a hotel and the crew travel overnight. But for whatever reason, we travelled overnight. And we had two buses. One bus was where the musical director and the lady singers travelled, and Adrian. So there were 4 people on that bus. And that was called the Starship Enterprise. And the other bus, on which all the other gentlemen of the orchestra and Mike's man, Jeremy, travelled, was called the Klingon Bus. And I do not remember ever sleeping on that bus. That was the idea. It was supposed to be a bus that we had a good night's sleep on. We never went to sleep at all, ever. And there was, you know, gentleman's smoking mixture and nasal decongestant and all that other sort of stuff going on. And one of the keyboard players, apparently, he had one of the very early camcorders. And apparently there is a 2-hour tape that he took of a night journey on the Klingon bus that is too indelicate to ever be released for public consumption. It was massive, massive, massive fun. It was huge, more fun than it should have been. And we used to get to the town for the city for next day's show, and we'd have day rooms in hotels. And you go and fall into the day room and have a sleep. And that would be the only sleep you got. But we had a month of crazy nights on the Klingons bus. There are too many others. There are just so many other stories from that tour, but I'm afraid I'm not going to tell you them. Okay, yeah, what goes on tour stays on tour, absolutely. Right, I'm going to go. I picked the wrong year to give up drinking during the week. I think I might go and have a beer. Thank you very, very much for coming. It's been a great pleasure. A trip down memory lane for me and a great joy. I'll let you know. I'll email you all when the the thing when I put the recording up.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Bye bye everybody. Bye bye.
Bye,
Counting
everybody.
out.
Cheers.
3, a 2, a 1.